Hey guys, what's going on? Megan here. All right, answering questions from my SKOOL community. This one is on mental health, anxiety, confidence, depression, corn addiction, all that stuff. All right, let's see. I'm looking at the poll results. Okay, it's close to 50-50. People who struggle with confidence and anxiety. All right, first question. Brandon, as someone who doesn't struggle with confidence or anxiety, does it mainly stem from isolation, a sedentary lifestyle, and poor nutrition for those who have it? First of all, absolutely, right? If you look at all the studies on mental health, one of the biggest, most consistent findings, right, as far as biggest influence on mental health is exercise, diet, lifestyle. And it's funny how people just ignore it and they go straight for the pills, they go straight for maybe it's genetics, whatever, BS, right? And the reason is simple, right? If you low in confidence or you have high anxiety, whatever, or you have depression symptoms, something is off with your neurotransmitters, GABA, endorphins, endocannabinoids, blah blah blah, dopamine, blah blah. And what is the one thing that rearranges your brain, if you want to put it that way, the most, apart from diet, of course, because diet is like the foundation of everything, right? It's exercise. Most people are too sedentary. They don't exercise, so they're not getting BDNF. They're not getting, enough lactate to go to the brain and increase BDNF, increase endorphins, blah blah blah. They're not getting these chemicals, so they have to get them from alcohol. They have to get it from weed. They have to get it from fentanyl and heroin and stuff like that. People don't exercise, man, and they say, "Oh, it's my genetics, whatever." Now, of course, isolation also plays a role, you know, but the basics are always king, right? It doesn't matter how much you're surrounded by people if you don't exercise enough, because there's certain mechanisms, right, for mental health that are impossible to replicate without exercise, right? You gotta understand that there are some mechanisms that impact mental health that are impossible to replicate without exercise, or at least to match, the magnitude that you get from exercise. So yeah, I think people should move more. 10,000 steps a day is the bare minimum. It's not the goal. People should do more zone two cardio, HIT. I'm not saying to do some crazy sessions, right? I'm always against that, but you don't have to go running for 5 hours, but just move your body. We evolved to move. Next from Enders, I have my whole life been struggling with my self worth, self esteem, confidence, and in the past 10 years, anxiety as well. I personally think it has to do with childhood traumas from an early age as well as just life happening. I agree. Here comes the question: how do I fucking turn those things around? 193 centimeters, 112 kg, between 12 to 15% body fat. Sorry for it being a longer post. It's fine. It's fine. You give context. Um, where some people just ramble, and then I don't get enough context. I don't get enough. Um, you know, they just ramble. They just say a bunch of stuff, and it's still vague. But anyway, so yes, childhood trauma plays a role, but you also gotta understand that most men have childhood traumas, right? So we can isolate childhood trauma as not a significant factor simply because most men, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, right? Most men that I've worked with, you know, from all ages, because I actually started working with kids and then worked my way up to adults, have childhood traumas, right? Of course, to varying degrees. Some people had it worse than others. So I'm not saying they don't play a role. Of course, childhood trauma plays a role, but because most men have childhood traumas, now you have to look at other things, right? So I'm saying that not to downplay your childhood trauma, because we've all had it, and you guys know I don't play with childhood trauma. I'm saying that so you can start looking elsewhere, right? Are you eating healthy? Are you exercising? Are you surrounding yourself with people? Are you going out of your comfort zone? Are you out into the world competing as opposed to being home looking at TV or porn or whatever? You know? So start looking elsewhere because the traumas, we all have them, and, we have to address them eventually, but you have to start with the basics. All right, so you want to turn things around first, dial in. I mean, you seem to be in shape based on your picture, but are you doing enough cardio? Especially, guys, if you have mental health issues, cardio becomes not it's no longer optional. And I'm speaking from experience, right? As someone who hates cardio, right? If you have mental health issues, you need more cardio than the average person. It's not even close. And if you look at the studies, they confirm the exact same thing, right? Whether it's ADHD, whether it's depression, anxiety, those people need cardio more than the average person. Not just lifting weights. I'm talking about actual cardio, running, HIT, sprinting, MMA, doing combat sports, anything that has your heart in at least zone two or higher for a long period of time. right? Lifting weights does not count as cardio, even though, yes, your heart rate is going to be elevated, but doing tricep push downs, right, is not cardio. Now, if you're doing squats, that's a different story. But how many people do squats for longer than, a few minutes? So do cardio, man. It's going to increase your GABA. People forget that GABA is made from glucose. It's made from a lot of stuff, but made from, made from glutamate as well, but it's actually made from your brain oxidizing glucose, right? So the more your brain burns glucose, eventually you're gonna make glutamate, and eventually glutamate, converts to GABA. So your brain has to be really active for you to have high levels of GABA, which you guys know is the king for lowering anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So you need to exercise. You need to exercise. And obviously surround yourself with loved ones, listen to music, all that good stuff. Next, Andy, how to beat fear and anxiety. How to beat fear and anxiety of entering adulthood and the real world and the feeling of you on your own. You're probably not gonna like this answer, but you don't beat it. You just do it. You feel that fear as you're doing it, and then you just become numb to it. You know, a lot of men make the mistake of where they're waiting to be in the right state of mind before they take things that require leaps of faith. I don't think you're going to be in a situation unless you become a billionaire overnight. Even then, you're always going to be nervous about entering adulthood. It's terrifying. Remember, guys, I studied at 17. I left my evil mom's house at 17. And then at first I was roommating with my sister, and I was on my own. I was paying my own bills. I was working 2, 3 jobs a day. No, at the time it was 2 jobs because I was doing what was it called, PAL, and then I was working overnight at Target, and I was going to school at CSI College of Staten Island, and I was 17 years old, guys. It was terrible, working overnight and during the day and going to college, you know. But again, it was terrifying, but I did it. I'm glad I did it because it made me a stronger, better man. But even though these are times I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, it was necessary. Yeah. But go out there. I wouldn't worry too much because it's not like you're going. Listen, guys. Whenever I'm afraid of something, right? I'm gonna be brutally honest with you guys. Whenever I'm afraid of something, I always pause, close my eyes, and think of my ancestors. I think of people that had to wake up in the morning, and their adulthood was going and hunting in the fucking plains with his hyenas and lions, and you could go back to your ancestors as far as 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 years ago. It doesn't matter, right? Because your lion, if you're alive today, your lion is like fucking almost eternal, right? And they had to wake up, and then they had to go hunt in the wild, in the forest, in the savannah, wherever the fuck they were. If you Asian, let's say in the steppes or whatever, you know how terrifying that was. And I'm always thinking, we are supposed to be the best version of our lineage, and we complaining about having to get in the car, and commute to a job, or face the realities of the modern world. Come on, it's not even close. We have more weapons, more tools, more knowledge available to us. We shouldn't be afraid. So don't be. Your ancestors accomplished a lot more with a lot less. All right, next, Seagull. Why do I feel like there's absolutely no point in talking and socializing with people? I don't gain any happiness or satisfaction from talking to someone unless it is a friend I'm very comfortable with. Those are only like 2 or 3 people right now. Okay, so for one, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's annoying to talk to strangers. Even for me, it's annoying because we're on different wavelengths. So I'm not saying that to be arrogant. Like, most people are dumb as fuck. I'm sorry. Most people are dumb. I mean, I was one of them, right? I was dumb too at one point. In fact, I believe that to this day I'm still dumb. That's why I keep reading, right? Because you never reach the peak of wisdom and knowledge. But holy fuck, the longer you spend reading and studying like I do, the more you don't want to talk to anybody because everyone is just so fucking dumb. And again, I can't blame them because, like I said, I was there too, right? Not everyone reads as much as I do and studies as much as I do, so I can't blame them for not knowing. Again, as arrogant as that sounds, I'm being brutally honest. It's annoying. People still believe in myths and religious BS, and they keep falling for political. Oh my goodness. So I understand where you're coming from, but you still have to talk to people, not just to grow your network, but to work on your public speaking skills, to work on your communication skills, um, to work on your ikigai, because I'm pretty sure your ikigai involves helping the world. It should. So yeah, there is a point in socializing and talking And that's also how you get easy cheeks, man. The more you talk, the more you make more friends, and then the friend, introduces you to another friend, and another friend. Next thing you know, one of them introduces you to this bad bitch who gives you that look, and you're like, oh. So don't forget, guys, it is a lot easier to clap cheeks from a friend of a friend, right? Because women, that's one of the filters that they use because they're so scared that they're gonna meet a weirdo online. So if they know that you're a friend of their friend, they lower their guard a lot more. See, so there's a lot of benefits, man. Next, GOM. Sup, Megan. I struggle with confidence and anxiety. However, I've noticed that when I go to an event, I can. Wait, what? Guys, you got to reread what you write. However, I've noticed that when I go to an event, I can connect. Oh, when I go to an event. Okay. I thought you meant like even. And when I go to an event, you forgot the T, okay? I can connect with many people. Afterwards, for 2 to 3 days, I feel calmer and more confident. Why is that? Is it simply because I did well meeting new people? It's both. One is because you got the benefit, right? The oxytocin and whatever, the vasopressin, depending on how the conversation went and who you met. But, that's partly that because that doesn't last a long time. The other thing is the confidence that you gain, the testosterone boost, and in some cases, the androgen receptor upregulation in the brain, that is, from achieving something that you thought was hard, right? So you have both. You have the fact that you're getting those oxytocin and vasopressin, the main bonding neurochemicals, neurotransmitters, but also the status increase from knowing that you did something you were afraid of, you know? So that's why I keep telling people, don't be home all day. Go out there, talk to people, socialize, make friends. So many benefits. Next, tapatio choquero, tapioca. Have you practiced gratitude and grounding? Are there higher return on investment for good mental health apart from the basics? So gratitude, of course, if you look at my 5M daily routine, it literally starts the day with motivation, which literally starts the day with, gratitude and visualizing and stuff like that. So big proponent of gratitude, not for some hippie shit, but mainly because it works. Because a lot of us are entitled sons of bitches, myself included. I find myself complaining about the smallest, dumbest things. And then when I pause and I start thinking of the things I should be grateful for, it puts things in perspective, right? Yes, I do gratitude because I think everybody should do it. It's only a few seconds. Just make a list, a mental list. You could write it, you could put it on your phone, or you could just say it out loud of the top 10 things you're grateful for, you know? And it really puts things in perspective. And like I said, you guys should study world history because the more you study history, yes, it comes with a higher risk of depression, I'm not going to lie, but because you learn so many fucked up things about how the world works. But it also puts things in perspective and allows you to be grateful because holy fuck, people had it rough. Your ancestors are monsters if you look at the things that survived. So, that also helps making me more grateful. I will read like a conquest or like, oh, the conquest of Assyria or this or blah, blah, blah. And then, what the Japanese did to the Chinese. And, but, I just read and I'm like, oh my God, we are so lucky, you know? So, now as far as grounding, yeah, I mean, grounding, obviously we need more studies. There's definitely some evidence, but I feel like it's overhyped. But yes, grounding has some benefits. It's just that overhyped in social media. Next, Stefan, how do I stop fear from arguing with my dad and teachers slash friends? I always freeze in fear from arguing with my dad, and I get negative thoughts for the rest of my day or more days. I feel like I will never be able to move on from that freeze point. And I answered that in the Discord. I don't know if you saw my reply. You probably did, but yeah, you first you got to pinpoint where the fear is coming from. If it's your dad, obviously it's from being a kid and probably being hit or beat or you know something of that sort. But at the end of the day, you guys have to understand that fear comes from lack of competence, right? Fear comes from lack of competence, right? If there's a spider on the fucking wall, I'm not gonna be scared of it because I know I'm competent. I know I could kill the spider. Turn that into a fucking cobra or anaconda, and I'm jumping out the window. Why? Because I'm not competent. I'm not confident that I'm gonna fucking kill a anaconda, right? So fear is mainly from competence. When you're competent, right? And that comes from a history of wins, right? In case you ask, well, how do I become competent from a history of wins? So if you're afraid of something, chances are because there's a lack of competence lurking somewhere, right? So you have to look in the mirror and be like, okay, if you're afraid of your dad, probably it's because he's, again, I'm speculating. I don't know your dad. Maybe because he's abusive. And if he is, well, think about it. How many people bully Mike Tyson? Not many, right? I'm talking about prime Mike Tyson. Why? Because they're gonna get their fucking, face caved in. So if you're afraid of your dad, chances are it's because he's probably stronger than you. He probably beat you. He used to beat you. Whatever. Assuming he's a bad person. I don't. Again, like I said, I don't know him. I don't know the full story. But in my opinion, no man should raise a child to the point where your child is terrified of you, right? It should be love. There should be fear and admiration in a good way, but not what you're describing. So if he's an abusive dad, I think you should man up, right? You should strength. I'm not saying you should go and hate your dad, but you should get to a point where when he goes on his rants or whatever, you could just sit firm, stand firm. I'm not saying be disrespectful, but just be ready to, defend yourself. Else, of course, you're gonna be afraid. So learn to fight. Sorry, guys, I'm tired. So I'm literally like dozing off. I said yesterday was a brutal day, but yeah, get stronger. Learn to fight. You're not gonna be scared if a 4-year-old walks up to you and starts doing the same thing your dad does, right? Why? Because you can slap the shit out of that nigga. Now, as far as other people, again, I don't know why you be afraid. Let me see. Let me read that again. I was freezing fear from arguing with my dad, and I get the thoughts. Yeah, teachers, friends. Yeah, same thing with your teachers and friends. Look, man, please listen to me. Guys, pause. Everything you're doing, listen to me. If you can remember one thing out of everything that I've taught you guys or I showed you guys, if you can remember one thing, it sounds corny, it sounds cliched, but I've said this over and over again, and it's the law with which I raise my kids, and I beat it into their heads. You could be anything you want to be in life other than weak. You cannot be weak as a man. You cannot. History has shown us over and over again one of the worst things you could be in this world is weak. The world is not about good versus evil. It's not about right versus wrong. The world is about the strong and the weak. As heartless as that sounds, it is an undeniable truth. So you cannot be weak. And I'm referring to mental and physical weakness. Because then you're at the mercy of everybody else. Right? You guys remember that quote that I live by, right? That quote from I forgot his name. The Greek motherfucker. You guys know what I'm talking about, where he says, the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. It is so true. So instead of asking me, well, how should I handle this? No, get strong. Get mentally and physically strong. You'll notice that it's funny how the stronger you get, right, the smaller your problems become and the less people fuck with you. Funny how that works. How did I deal with my bully? I became stronger. See? You guys remember that story? And I was like, that's when I became obsessed with masculinity and testosterone and fighting, whatever, right? As a teenager, when I finally realized, wow, all these years this motherfucker bullied me, and then all these years that I trained and got better and finally confronted him, and then he magically stopped after that, never bullied me again. It was like a high. I was like, wow, that's all I had to do was get stronger, And yeah, being mentally and physically and financially strong will fix most of your problems. I know it sounds simple, know it sounds cliched, but it's true. Strength is the answer to almost everything. So hopefully that helps, Stefan. Next, wise, you answered my question on how to. Actually, I gotta hurry the fuck up. Oh my god, I gotta hurry up. There's a lot more questions. All right, you answered my question on how to work on trauma. You said to turn into rage fuel and to channel it into success. My question is, how do you exactly channel it? Like, for example, let's say someone had a bad childhood, loneliness, getting bullied, etc. Do you have the thought of, I'm going to work out and make myself so strong mentally that if I ever go through these things again, it won't traumatize me ever again? How do you channel the trauma for growth exactly? And also, can you give examples of how you channel one of your traumas to growth? Thanks. Yeah, so I've answered that many times. When I say channel your trauma, because you have to understand, when you pause, watch my video on the rage bucket. It's very old, but I still use it to this day. When you pause and you sit down in a room and you close your eyes and you think of all the pain that happened to you as a child, at least when I do it, right? And I have tears in my eyes, and I'm thinking of little Megan that had no one to help him when his mom was abusing him, and there was no dad in his home to protect him, no big brothers to protect him, and then he leaves the house, and then the bullies are waiting for him, and he doesn't speak English, so everyone is making fun of him, and he's skinny fat, and I'm closing my eyes, and I'm picturing that poor little skinny fat 11, 12-year-old Megan. And obviously started when I was even younger than that. But um, that was the most traumatic time of my life, especially when we came to America, because now it's like, oh my God, the bullies like quadrupled, because you guys know what it's like being African immigrant, can't speak English, skinny fat, Harlem, New York. Holy fuck. Every day, every hour, it was nonstop bullying. And then you come home and then boom, you got to face the demon that's supposed to be your mother, right? So when I think of all that trauma and that pain, and then there's tears, in my eyes every time, right? That rage, right? I just tell, because you guys know I also believe in full accountability. Everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say that, but I believe that no matter what happens to you in life, you have to make it your fault because it allows you to find solutions. I I swear by that mentality, right? And again, I learned it from studying warriors, ancient history, right? Where I always take accountability, even if I know it's not my fault, I make it my fault. So that's how I channel the rage, right? I pause, I think of the pain, it wells up, it makes me angry. Like, why was no one there to protect me? Why? And then I start thinking, well, it was your fault, even though it wasn't. I make it my fault, right? And then I start thinking, wait, if I was strong, this wouldn't have happened. If I was smarter, this wouldn't have happened. If I had more money, this wouldn't have happened, right? And then that rage, at myself for being such a weak piece of shit at the time, even though I was 11 or 8 or 6 years old, I don't care. That rage makes me want to level up. And I'm like, never again, never again. And I go and I train hard, I study, I read, I make more money. So that's how I channel the pain of my childhood into success. I turn it into rage. Rage turns into motivation. Now, if you don't make it your fault, it's useless, right? If you don't make it your fault, you're just gonna end up being like the far left who blame everybody for the world's problems. Oh, it's because of the cops, it's because of racism, because this fuck off. I can't stand these people that never take accountability. You know, so don't just think of the trauma and then stop. No, think of the trauma and then make it your fault. I know it sounds crazy. I know no therapist will ever tell you to do that, but for men, we need that shit. We need vengeance. We need anger at our weaker selves. We need anger and disappointment um, at our past selves. That couldn't save us. So that's how I channel it. I make it my fault. Me and Matt talk about this all the time. As well as my other friends. I'm like, make it your fault because you guys know I hate excuses. I hate when people make excuses. Oh, this happened because of this. No, make it your fault. But Megan, you were 5 years old. How could you defend yourself from your mom? I don't fucking know. I should have somehow been some myostatin 5-year-old kid who was strong enough to say, stop hating me when I'm innocent. Stop hating me when I didn't do anything wrong, whatever. So that's how I do it. Might not work for everyone, but it worked for me. Hopefully that answers your question. And again, much love to you guys. That's why I relate to men. Anyone who went through a tough childhood or who went through trauma, I understand you guys, man, because it sucks. It sucks not having anyone to help you or save you, and you just gotta wait. You just gotta wait until you're old enough to leave. Especially when you didn't do anything wrong. To me, that's the worst part, right? That's why I hate people who hurt kids. Like when a kid didn't do anything wrong, why are you doing this to them? But anyway, Alejandro Munoz, I'm trying to find ways to keep myself aggression maxed and consistent to build a business while having a remote job. What do you think would be more effective? Having a page on Notion with all my enemies and their successes, which is competition, keeping different pain statements all over my phone, discomfort, dopamine hacking, checklist, listening to aggressive voice memo by myself, other. I've utilized all of that, right? Again, you pretty much describing the rage bucket, right, or a version of it. Anything that works because everyone is different, right? Anything that activates your amygdala makes you angry. Back to wise question, right? Man, we need rage. How many times do I have to say this? We need rage. We need vengeance to thrive. Don't let no one tell you otherwise. Think about it. Why do you think men go through a breakup and what is the first thing most of them do? They go to the gym, they get in shape, they get shredded. Some of them hop on roids, they become monsters. You think it's by coincidence? We need rage. We need anger. We need vengeance. Nothing motivates like vengeance. Nothing. You know? So that's why I love vengeance movies, vengeance animes, vengeance games, because I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we need that. Men did not accomplish amazing things because of love and peace and happiness. You look at every major, huge achievement. It was because of discomfort, because of pain, right? And the chief of that is vengeance. Like somebody coming. Guys, remember, your ancestors used to go out and hunt. And sometimes they will come back to the tribe 8 hours later after a long hunt. And you know what they will find? Empty. Empty. Because guess what happened back then a lot? Enemy tribes would come and raid villages while the men were out hunting. They would steal the women, they would steal the daughters, regardless of age, and they would take them back to the tribe and they'll do, you know what? Yeah, look it up. This is the reality of life. Right? And it still happens to this day in some hunter-gatherer tribes. Brutal. That's why men evolved to be fighters. High T, big shoulders, big muscles, whatever. We fought over mates and resources. So imagine coming home and then you and your boys looking around. You see blood everywhere because obviously they would take the women. They would kill whoever tries to resist. If there was some men there, obviously there's not going to be enough men to hold down the fort, so they would kill them or take them back as slaves. Imagine coming back from your hunt with your boys and you see that. You think you're going to be like, all right, well, it's life. No. Vengeance. Everybody turns Super Saiyan on the spot. Because now the goal is we have to go. We have to find the enemies. We have to kill them. And we have to bring back the captives. We have to bring back our women and daughters and sisters. Please study history, guys. I beg you guys, because you have no idea. How are you going to understand yourself? How are you going to understand how to maximize your aggression and your motivation and who you are as a man if you don't even know the stuff your ancestors had to go through? You don't even know the environment in which men thrive. That's why I always tell you guys, men need motivation. Sorry, we need conquest and competition and challenges to thrive, to bring out the best in us, because that is what we've done for 99% of our existence on Earth. Fighting the elements, fighting predators, fighting rival tribesmen. So yeah, if you want to stay high aggression, you have to mimic that, because today you don't have to worry about coming home from work on your commute, right? And seeing that your loved ones are raped, right? You don't have to worry about that today. So it's going to be very hard to keep aggression max unless you find a way to, to pretend like it happened or pretend like it will happen. Like I always say, right? Train as if the barbarians are at the gate. Train as if they're coming for your family tomorrow. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, so go ahead, have the pain statements, have the enemies, anything that gets you fired up. Next, Finney and Morgan. Do you think lack of confidence mostly comes from lack of social skills, which comes not enough exposure to different group dynamics, hot women and competitive men? I also know that I would be 10 times more confident if I knew how to do public speaking. Talking to a woman would be nothing compared to that. Correct. You answered your own question. Again, height 5'6", 140 pounds, 12 to 14% body fat. Yes. A lot of people, remember I told you guys, fear and anxiety and low confidence usually comes from low competence, right? So if you not good at public speaking, meaning you're not competent at public speaking, how do you expect to be confident? If you're not good at social interactions, you don't have a history of wins and losses in that department, how are you going to be confident at that? Confidence is mainly competence from a history of wins and also indifference from a history of losses that you survived, right? That's how you become confident at something. So yes, you answered your own question. You need to be exposed to many. I mean, guys, that's the reason why I have like God mode confidence. The history of wins, right? Because I competed a lot to get stronger and stronger and better and, be my own man. And I also lost a lot of rejections from so many different scenarios, women, friend groups, so many things, man, growing up as the little fucking skinny fat Megan, just trying to fit in as an immigrant, at 11, 12, 13 years old. So that constant history of wins and losses, fighting my whole life, that's what gave me that confidence where I'm like, I'm either confident because I'm competent, right? Because I won at those things, or I'm indifferent because I'm like, okay, next. I lost that battle so many times that losing it again won't hurt me. And then that gives me the confidence to attempt again. You guys need battle scars, right? I made a post about that where I was like, you don't need more motivation. You don't need more confidence. You need more battle scars, right? You need more wins. You need more losses. Next, how do you gamify 5M daily routine and commit to deadlines? Oh, I cannot answer that in just a few minutes. It's so many ways. When I make the gamification course, you guys will get more ideas. I made some posts in the private Discord, but long story short, to gamify something is you want a goal, You want it to be challenging, not too hard, not too easy. You want to give yourself variable rewards, so 50-50 rewards where you don't know what you're going to get. And you also want to do it with a group of people, ideally friends or rivals or whatever. That's how you gamify things. That's the quick summary of it. It's obviously deeper than that. How do you commit to deadlines? Again, you gamify things, and then you make it so that the deadlines cannot be moved away. You make it so there's a penalty for skipping the deadlines. Because if you just tell yourself, I'm going to do this today by 2 p.m., and there's no penalty for not meeting the deadline, why would you commit to it? Don't get me started. If you have ADHD or the warrior gene, it's even worse, right? You're not going to care if there's no pain or stress associated with that deadline. So, or a great reward. So, yeah, gamify. That's how video games get us to stick to deadlines, right? Because it's gamified. Anyway, next, how many more questions? Oh, I gotta hurry up, man. Is the answer to boosting confidence simply living healthy, high tea, and just doing whatever is uncomfortable, or is there some other thing? It's part of it. It's part of it. But like I said, the answer to confidence is if you have to break it up into two things, confidence will break down into two things. One, competence, right? History of wins, or indifference, not caring due to either, again, history of wins or history of losses that did not cripple you. The more you lose, believe it or not, the more confident you get, right? Because you realize that, okay, like, nothing can kill me. What's the worst that could happen? That's why I tell you guys, get rejected. If you're trying to get better at talking to women, get rejected. Because after you get rejected hundreds of times, the next rejection is just another one. Meanwhile, think about it. If you only got rejected once in your entire life, that second rejection hurts, right? Because it's a 100% increase in rejection, right? You went from 1 to 2. So if you only got rejected once, you're gonna be very, very scared of that second rejection because it's a 100% increase. But if you get rejected 100 times, do you think you're gonna be scared of the 101 rejection? You're not, right? You're gonna be like, wait, what? This is gonna be my 101st rejection. I don't care. It's one more out of 100. It's 1%. So you see how going from 100 to 1 is nothing, but going from 1 to 2 is a lot. That's why I tell you guys, that's the secret. You want to rack up rejection. You want to rack up failures so that the next one doesn't hurt as much. Your amygdala becomes desensitized to that bitch. But yeah, do what makes you uncomfortable. Force yourself to do hard things. You guys think I wanted to walk 50,000 steps yesterday? Fuck that, man. But the more you do things that you hate, the more the next one becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. All right, next, why do you hate religion? Do you think it can be useful for the average person? It's not that I hate all of religion. I told you guys, a lot of times I just talk and I'm just like, it's not scripted. So I'm just going off whatever's in my head, right? If you want me to be specific, I don't hate religion. I told you guys, to this day, my number one book that I would recommend to most people is the Bible, right? To this day, I still read it. Believe it or not, I don't read it for religious reasons, but I still read it. Amazing book, a lot of wisdom, a lot of, I love poetry as well. The Bible is mainly poetry. Still read the Quran, I still read the books of, the Iliad. I still read about Zeus and Odin. Does that mean I believe in them motherfuckers? Of course not, right? I read it for the epicness and the wisdom and the stories and the bravery and, the poems. So there's a lot of good things about religion. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, it's all bad. But there's also a lot of evil things about religion. And what bothers me about religion is people only look at the good and then they find the shittiest, most illogical fallacies to try to rationalize away the bad. I cannot stand that. You can find the most logical person, if you make them religious, they will have cognitive dissonance and they will start to try to find excuses for the evil that is in religion. And I'll be 100% honest with you. If you study history, you don't even have to study history. Go out into the world. Religion is responsible for a lot of goods, but also a lot of evils. And we have to stop looking only at the good. The example I always give is we can't forgive a fucking rapist because he's donating money to charity every week. Right? We can't say, well, at least he's donating money he's helping feed the kids every other week. Yeah, he's also raping them motherfuckers. Right? That's what religion is. Religion is full of evil. And I'm not making this up. You can read your own books. If you're Muslim, if you Christian, if you Hindu, read your books, right? What from an objective standpoint, not from a biased cognitive dissonance standpoint. You're gonna see a lot of evil, and then sure enough, religion teaches you to find excuses for that. Oh, you don't really understand. This was out of context. Da 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 da. Fuck off. Logical fallacies. So that's why. So those are the parts of religion that I hate. Is the evil that is in. It's like fire, right? Fire is good. In fact, my girlfriend made me some steak, right? We needed fire for that shit, but it also burns motherfuckers. Same thing with religion. A lot of good things came from religion. I got a lot of my wisdom from studying religions, world religions, but a lot of evil also comes from it. A lot. It's just we turn a blind eye to the evil. So that's why I talk shit about religion all the time. Also, at the end of the day, like I told you guys, I challenge anyone to prove me wrong. Religion was created by politicians. The evidence behind that is so massive that you have to literally be an ostrich and stick your head in the dirt to ignore it. Look up how Islam came to pass. Look up how Judaism, Christianity, Hinduism, even go as far back as Egyptian mythologies. Even Zoroastrianism, ancient, one of the oldest religions from ancient Iran. Look up Babylonian religions. Read the Enuma Elish. Study ancient. Look at every major whatever religion you could think about, and look at the origin of it. It's always from a politician, a powerful figure, either a businessman or a priest or a king, a warlord. How funny is it that the God of the universe only speaks to politicians? Just think, guys. Just think. But anyway, and like I always say, right? Why is it that in all those religions, God, quote unquote God, puts his holy word, right, in the format that 99% of people cannot consume? And that is reading. People forget that back then, only the elite and a very small percentage of the population could read. So funny how that works, right? God wants to speak to you, but you have to go to an elite person to get the translation because you can't read. That's like a president today saying, God spoke to me, but it's only through my email. Only I have access to it. You guys have to come to me to hear what God said. What would you guys say if Joe Biden or Trump or Putin or Kim Jong, whoever said, God spoke to us, but only we can tell you what he said because you can't check my email. That's how every religion was created. In the book, people forget that it's only recently that we learn to read. It's only recently that the average person could read. Back in the days, to be able to read, that was a fucking privilege. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question. Can it be useful for the average person? Yeah, of course it could be useful. Fire could be useful, right? That doesn't make it all good or all bad. I feel like religion is training wheels, right? The average person will benefit greatly from it in the beginning until they learn history, science, and politics so that they could wean themselves off the bullshit and then face the realities of life. Next, Ilyas Ahmed is becoming more 5'10", 230 pounds, 30% body fat. You got to cut, brother. Goal 185 pounds, 15% body fat. There you go. Before 2026. Okay. Is becoming more low inhibition as naturally high inhibition person a good thing? I realized recently that being more polite than you need to be gets you absolutely nowhere in life. Correct. Business and relationships, people will treat you like an absolute sucker and laugh at you behind your back. Speaking from experience. Correct. I've been trying to tell you guys. You have to learn how to be balanced. You cannot be too good. You cannot be too evil. You cannot be too agreeable. You cannot be too disagreeable. There's no such things, right, as a fully 100% innocent, pure person. That person is a moron and probably dead. You have to have balance. Don't be evil. Don't be good. That's why I don't believe in good and evil. I don't. I just believe in strong and weak, right? Because good and evil is relative. People make their own morals. In this culture, they'll tell you that this is evil. In the other culture, they'll tell you you get a trophy for doing that. In this other culture, they'll tell you, if you do this, we're going to stone you to death. In this other culture, they'll tell you, you're a gangster if you do this. Let's go. Good and evil is relative, man. Who decides at the end of the day? The strong. The strong, right? Warlords and conquerors. They're the ones who spread their beliefs, and then we were raised in those conquered societies, and we adopted those beliefs, those morals, and we think, oh yeah, this is good, this is evil, like a bunch of idiots, right? Oh, I just feel like that's morally wrong. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if you were raised in another culture, you would think that's right. Just like we could eat steak and be like, yeah, nice, right? And then, on the other side of the world, it's like, oh my God, forbidden! You just ate a cow. Oh God. See, who's right? Are you gonna say that they're right, or are you gonna say that they're wrong? Right? Who's right or who's wrong? Now, if they come and conquer us and impose that rule, 3 generations from now, your descendants are gonna believe just like them. Eating cows is immoral. See, all of the whole world is about conquest, guys. The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. So yes, do not be too nice. Do not be a carpet that people will walk all over. Right? Know how to stand your ground. Right? And like I said, don't be evil as well. Right? Just find that proper balance. Next, what's up, Megan? It's Jabroni here. Adam Lebroni. I always notice that when I'm out and social, talking with random people, I feel happier, more fulfilled. Can you explain the science behind this, of why socializing, having strong friends and relationships is key for mental and physical health? Thank you for these Q&As. They are very insightful. I think I answered that question already. Was that you? Was it a different video? I think I've answered that in one of the other videos. I don't even fucking know. Right? Guys, didn't somebody ask this? I'm recording 2 videos today, so I don't fucking know. But anyway, yeah. Long story short, yeah. If you're around people, remember I told you guys, mental health is all about neurotransmitters, right? It's all about neurotransmitters, and what increases those good neurotransmitters, right? GABA, endorphins, uh, serotonin, dopamine, blah blah, blah. What increases that, right? Exercise, diet, lifestyle. Exercise, that's the easy one. Diet, that's easy because you need the building blocks. You need like tyrosine to make dopamine. You need tryptophan to make serotonin. You need glucose to make glutamate and GABA, blah, blah, blah. You need choline to make acetylcholine. Now, what about the third one, which is lifestyle, right? So obviously the sleep, sunlight, all the good shit. But it's also relationships. Being around people, that's going to increase oxytocin. If you're a man, you're going to get oxytocin and vasopressin, right? These are chemicals that help us bond, help us feel loved, and help us make friends. So a lot of people who say I have bad mental health, yeah, you don't exercise, you eat like shit, and then you're not around people, you're not around friends and loved ones, you know. So that's the science. That's the short version of the science behind that. Obviously, it's more complicated than that, but this is a Q&A. So yeah, that's what I tell you guys. Guys, why do you think even in the school community, I'm always making posts about nostalgia, and I'm like, hey, bonding time, bonding time. What are your top 3 things? And I'm telling you guys, message each other, find friends. But everyone wants to act all cool, like, yeah, I don't need friends. Okay, fuck you then, fuck you. Because having good friends is a cheat code. It is. You know, it is a cheat code. It allows you to do a lot of the other 10 testosterone commandments, as long as they're good friends. Again, like I said, there's always fake friends. I'm referring to good friends, people that had similar traumas as you and similar goals as you. That's how you find a good friend. Find someone who has the same or similar traumas as you. That's going to help you guys relate and be bonded, full diddy. And number 2, find someone that also has the same goals as you. They got to have both. If they just have the same goals but not the same trauma, they won't really understand you. You won't understand each other. And if they have the same traumas but not the same goals, they're just going to be bitching and making excuses all the time. Find a friend who has the same goals as you and the same traumas. And one of the best ways to find that is, again, those posts that I make about favorite video game, favorite movie, favorite this. Why? Because usually people that have the same interest in fiction and art and whatever tend to have the same traumas and goals. But that's a whole different video. So take advantage of the school community, guys. Yes, that's the shameless fucking plug too, right? Because I also make the post public, so you can be, oh, you're just saying that because you're school community. Yeah, I make all of the posts in my community public eventually, and I just keep recycling the same fucking posts anytime. Anyway, so this is free information. So yeah, try to find people that when I make those posts, look in the comments, be like, hey, me and this guy have a lot in common. Now don't be weird. Don't be like, hey, let's be butt buddies, right? No, but just be like, hey, let's be rivals. Let's compete at this one thing. Like whatever. Don't be weird. But you guys need friends. Stop that introvert bullshit, guys. Stop that whole, oh yeah, I'm a Sigma. Get the fuck out of here. We evolved in tribes. Tribes are hunters. Tribes are warriors. Next, why does my body feel like it's shutting down when I'm about to get into a fight? Can't talk, feel weak as hell, scared how to change that. Well, remember, it's called, by the way, that's George, Jorge, I don't know. We'll say George. Remember, it's called fight, flight, or freeze, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. It's not just fight or flight. So you're probably describing the freeze part. And my answer is always the same. When you see fear, I want you to always remember my voice in your head saying, Confidence, anxiety, fear, that whole umbrella thing, right? The root of that is competence and indifference. So if you shut that during the fight, you're probably not competent enough. Let's be honest. Because you're not going to shut down if a 3-year-old tries to fight you, right? Right? So if you're shutting down, it's because you're probably not competent enough. Your brain thinks, oh my God, you might get your ass kicked. And the second part is you're probably not indifferent to the outcome. You know? So how do you do that? I told you, history of wins, history of losses, right? Rack up those, daily competitions. Next, holy wrath. Do you think that having a deterministic vision of life can actually boost the hell out of your confidence? Since I discovered such a philosophy, I no longer overthink about rejection or failure. What is supposed to happen will happen eventually. It made me outcome independent, and when I was obsessed with details. Also, I think it's very different from mere destiny, since often destiny has a passive connotation, while determinism tells you determined to realize your fate, whether you want it or not. Uh, Great comment, but I'll keep it simple with you, right? To me, I don't even fucking go that deep anymore. I went down those rabbit holes. I realized there are some things we're not in control of. There are some things that we are in control of. I just care about the things I'm in control of. Meaning, there are some things we will never be able to do. As of right now, we cannot move at the speed of light, right? I'm not gonna obsess about that. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, And in a way, that is fate, right? As of right now, based on current technology, we cannot move at the speed of light. So if the Earth is about to explode in 3 seconds, and the radius is going to be so wide that the only way to escape it is to travel at the speed of light, we all fucked, right? So in that sense, you could say fate is determined, right? There are many things that we cannot escape as of right now. There's also many things that we can do. If a meteor is about to, I don't know, hit the planet in, let's say, 3 months, there's some things we could do. I could clap more cheeks and make sure I die. I want to die a glorious death with my enemies crying and bitching and making excuses for why I mocked them, and I'm gonna get canceled if I say that, but yeah, I want to die clapping cheeks. So there's some things that we're in control of, right? Um, if we know that the Earth will, I don't know, die in 10 years, okay, we could start working on getting the fuck out of here, right? Like Elon is doing, right? So the things that we're in control of, I hyper focus on that. The rest, I don't give a fuck. And it does give me confidence, right? So I don't know if that really answers your question. But to me, that gives me confidence, knowing that there are some things that I will never escape, and that's okay, that's fine. But there are some things that I can control, you know. And it's kind of depressing, don't get me wrong, but gets me moving. Next, last one, how would you create a stressful environment to beat procrastination in college to get the highest possible GPA? This is for everyone with the warrior gene. I answer that so many times. Gamification, 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 right? Gamify school, gamify work, gamify your daily routine, and if that doesn't work, right, use the rage bucket, right? Use the rage bucket and channel that into success, but gamification usually works. All right, hope this video helps, guys. Join the SKOOL community, hire me for coaching, buy the eBooks, support the channel any way you can so I can keep making more of these videos. I'm out of here.